please explain Freedom Front and its policies?
Well, the Freedom Front Plus is a political party participating in the election. I would say there are 13 A-team players in the election. What I mean with that is, although there are about 200 political parties in the country, about 40 plus are participating in the election, there are only 13 parties who are participating on national level as well as in all 10 provinces. I say that would be the 18 parties. We are one of those. The Freedom Front Plus basically started off as a typical Afrikaner party, Afrikaner community being a minority in South Africa, and we are very much involved in terms of the long-term survival of the Afrikaner in Africa. If I speak about myself in terms of a party representative, my family came to Africa in 1685. That's long before most Americans went to the United States, or Australians, or Canadians, or New Zealanders. The point I'm making is the language, my mother tongue, which I teach my children, is Afrikaans. We've named our language to our continent. The people that I belong to, the Afrikaner, are named after our continent. So we say we are part and parcel of Africa. Even though we come previously from Europe, we are now Africans. If I have to speak in racial terms, I'm not a European, I'm an African. And if I have to speak in racial terms, then I'm a white African, but I'm an African. The reason why I'm saying this is because we are dedicated and connected to this continent. Our future is here. Now the question is, how do we survive and find a way to survive in South Africa and in Africa amongst all the other people in South Africa and find a secure future? Now in 1996, ad was placed in the newspapers when we started writing the current constitution, and that ad gave the figures of the time, 1996, of South Africa. It said the following: 20 million women, 18 million men, 8 different religions, 25 church denominations, 31 cultural groups, 14 languages, 9 races, 1 country. And that is the reality of South Africa in terms of its diversity. But that's only one part of the reality. There's another part. The other part of the reality is that since the first white people came 362 years ago, we've all become and became economically interdependent. We've got this one strong economy. We are socially interdependent. We've got sport interdependency, etc. So that's the other reality of South Africa. Now the question is, how do you accommodate both those realities? And we believe from the Freedom Front Plus's point of view that the answer is, if you can build on accepting the diversity as a positive, but you also accept the reality of economically and others interdependence in one country, if you accept both those realities, you'll come to the correct answer. In the beginning I pointed out that the party started off as a typical Afrikaner party, but we've also realized, and we've adapted, that in the end South Africa should be governed, as far as we are concerned, by a new majority. But that majority should consist of different minorities working together and forming a new majority. At the moment we say that the recipe for social cohesion and nation building is wrong, and we are stumbling from one sporting event to the next. It started off in '95 with the World Cup. Everybody was hippie-hurrah about the sport, and then it was the Cricket Cup, and then it was soccer, and so it goes on. But those feelings of togetherness doesn't last. What we need is to accept the diversity and use that as the strong building blocks for really a South Africa which belongs to all its people. And in that respect, the party is reaching out to other minorities in South Africa, because we've got many minorities, cultural, religious, linguistic minorities, and all those minorities should be accommodated, because in the end, what do we all want? We believe this country is big enough so that we can have a future in prosperity and in happiness for all of us, but it should be in such a way that no minority, be that cultural, religious or linguistic, should feel that they are alienated. And there are many things happening in the country at the moment in terms of government policy from our perspective that are alienating minorities in this country. So we are saying we reach out to all minorities to say, let's empower minorities and find a way to take South Africa forward. So in that respect, we are reaching out to other minorities. We are getting support from different communities in South Africa at the moment, and we believe we can make a difference. If I can make one small, maybe last point. We've got a wonderful electoral system, the proportional system of representation. That simply basically means that each and every vote counts. It's untrue to say that if you vote for smaller parties, you are wasting your vote. It's not correct, because if 10 million people vote, then a party would get 1 million votes. That would be directly put into percentages. You've got 10% of a vote and you'll get 10% of the seats. So in the end, we will come to a point where no party will obtain 50% plus on its own. And then you are forced to form coalitions. And when you form coalitions, and I know, for example, in Israel, almost all governments are coalitions all the time. The reality is then you get the best kind of government, because then people can cooperate and work together. So let me conclude. So Freedom Front Plus is a modern party. We are looking forward to the future. We believe that no solution that is based on race or discrimination can succeed. We reach out to other communities, and we think we're going to have a success in this election.
What physical steps will Freedom Front Plus take to empower minorities?
There are various ways to empower minorities. For example, if you look internationally, some of the forms of empowering would be coupled with geographic area, like land, for example. The state of Israel, as far as I'm concerned, is a very good example, where you've got a state where people can absolutely exercise their right to freedom and self-determination. But there are other forms as well. For example, you can and you should form organs of civil society. Section 185 in the Constitution, and I had the privilege in Parliament to propose that exact wording when we wrote the Constitution. It was accepted. Makes provision that you can form council or councils for religious or linguistic or cultural communities. And we should make that possible. That 185 Commission should be used to do exactly that, so that communities can form councils and use that to empower their communities.
You have a famous poster that was put up by the Freedom Front Plus. It said, "Stop the ANC." Please explain.
Yes, we believe that the ANC and their policies are not good for South Africa, and we can look into that. If you can use one example about being told about the good story, but let me tell you just one short, sad story. The province of KZN last year advertised for 90 posts for traffic inspectors in the province. How many people do you think applied? 30,000 people applied for 90 posts because they are so desperate for work. What did they do to select the 90 people? They put them through a grueling 4-kilometer race. In the end, 6 people physically died in that effort to try to be one of the first 90. So what we are saying is, we believe the ANC should be stopped. We think their policies are not good for South Africa and they should be replaced. And the best way to do that is to do that at the ballot box. Use your vote on the 7th of May and vote for a party of your choice, knowing that your vote will be counted.
Many people accuse the Freedom Front of being a racist party, a party of the past. Why are they wrong?
They are absolutely wrong, because they think in terms of pre-1994 thinking, if I may put it that way. We've all moved way beyond that. They only need to buy, for example, the newspaper in the Cape Town, here in our town, called Die Son. And today, turn to page 13 of that newspaper, and they'll see a full-page ad which we placed in that newspaper, reaching out to other communities. The pictures will tell them that we've got supporters and members in different communities, in the coloured community, in the Khoi community, in other communities as well. So it's a perception that exists. And the other reason is this: if you talk about minority rights, then some people want to equate that to apartheid. And they are completely wrong. And most people who do that will always come from the majority, because a majority can never put themselves in the position of a minority.
Do you condemn the actions of apartheid in the system?
Yes, absolutely. You see, the idea perhaps was not a wrong idea. If I took in terms of the theory, it was supposed to mean that each and every community, or each and every nation should have full self-determination and govern themselves. There's nothing wrong with that theory, that's internationally accepted. But the way it was implemented was based on race. And you cannot do that, it's simple as that, it's impossible. So it's wrong.
How does Freedom Front Plus see themselves doing in the upcoming election?
We are going to do well, I've got no doubt. The ideas that we are putting forward is growing at the moment, and we are going to surprise the electorate. We've got problems with other parties which we think are not going to do what they should do, but from our perspective, I think we're going to be surprised in the election. The one thing that we appeal people to do is to use both their ballots to vote for our party, not to split their vote. In the Western Cape, some people think they'll support us on the national ballot, but they'll vote for a larger party on the provincial ballot because they think that's a way to do it. It's not necessary. Both votes for our party, and we will represent you in the provincial legislature as well as in Parliament.
Thank you very much.
That's a pleasure. Thank you. It was a privilege.